All right, so this video is going to be about writing equations given the zeros. So instead of giving you the equation and you trying to find the zeros, I'm reversing the process. So I have these zeros, x equals 2, and I have a bounce at x equals negative 2. All right, I want to use this stuff to be able to get me and I can write this two ways. I can either write it in factored form, I can write it in standard form. First way, the easiest way, is to start out in factored form. Well, in order to do that, you need to identify every single zero that you have. Now remember, a bounce just means that that's a double zero. So I'm going to list out my zeros, x equals 2, x is equal to negative 2, and my last one, x is equal to negative 2 as well. The bounce means it happened twice, so we write it twice. Now that you have your zeros, go ahead and write your factors. My first factor should be x minus 2, my next one is x plus 2, and my other one is also x plus 2. Remember, that gets repeated. Now what you need to do is you need to start multiplying this stuff out. So take the first two sets of parentheses, the x minus 2 and the x plus 2, fill out a box, start to multiply things out, and see what's left over. Now I made a little mistake. I'm going to change it as we move along here. This should be a negative 4. It shouldn't be x squared plus 4. It's going to be x squared minus 4. Made a little mistake. That's okay. I'll fix it later in this video. All right, now this is what's left over. I took the x minus 2 and the x plus 2, multiplied them out. I still have to take this result and multiply it to my last factor, which is x plus 2. So I'm going to take that x squared. It's not going to be plus 4. I changed it right there. It's minus 4. And I need to multiply it by my last factor, which is x plus 2. So fill out all your boxes. See what you get. So now we're going to write it two forms. We're going to write in standard form. So what's left here is x cubed plus 2x squared minus 4x minus 8. That's what's left over in that last box that I multiplied out. There's nothing that we can combine, so I'm just going to write it as is. That's my standard form equation. My other one is going to be my factored form equation. All right, one of my factors was x minus 2. The other one was x plus 2, but I had two of them, so I'm just going to say it's x plus 2 squared. All right, so that's one way that you can do this stuff. So if I give you all real zeros, multiply everything out. And if I don't specify, hey, I just want an equation, you can give it to me in factored form, or you can give it to me in standard form. It's up to you. Now this next one that we're going to work on is going to be if I give you imaginary zeros. All right? So it's the same concept. So I'm giving you x equals negative 1 and x is equal to 2i. Now we need to remember imaginary zeros will always come in pairs. Like shoes, like socks, we have to have two. So I'm going to start to list out my zeros. X equals negative 1, x is equal to 2i. Now remember, if we're going to write them in pairs, we're not going to write it again. We're not going to write the same thing. That's a double zero. That's not what we were working with. We're working with imaginaries. So we're going to write it as 2i. And then x is equal to negative 2i. So we're going to get our factors, and we're going to do the exact same thing that we just did. So if my zero is x is equal to negative 1, I'm going to write my factor as x plus 1. If my zero is x is equal to 2i, I'm going to write x minus 2i. And if my other zero is x is equal to negative 2i, I'm going to write it as x plus 2i. Now, at this point, we are not going to leave it as factored form because there's imaginary values involved. We want real numbers, real values. So I'm going to take these imaginary ones, these imaginary factors, and I'm going to multiply those out. That's always what I'm going to do first. Multiply out your imaginary factors first. So set up your box, x minus 2i, x plus 2i, x times x is x squared. And then you take that negative 2i and multiply it to x, it's a negative 2xi. You take your positive 2i and multiply it to x, it's a positive 2xi. You're going to notice that those two terms actually cancel each other out. And then when you multiply your last box, it is a negative 4i squared. So I'm going to cancel out those two boxes right there. That means nothing. One thing I want you to remember is that what I squared is equal to. I squared is actually equal to negative 1. So that's really just negative 4 times negative 1, which is a positive 4. All right, so what's left over is x squared plus 4. So this is what we still need to take. We got to take this x squared plus 4. We're going to multiply it to our last factor, which is x plus 1. So there's my x squared plus 4. There's my x plus 1. Start filling everything out. You're going to notice that you cannot combine anything. So when we have imaginary zeros, we're going to go work all the way back to standard form. So my standard form equation is x cubed plus x squared plus 4x plus 4. All right? If we have imaginaries, like I said, go all the way back to standard form, write your factors, multiply all your factors out. If I give you real zeros, every single number is real, no imaginaries involved at all, you can either write it in factored form or you can write it in standard form.